And we're live, I think. I was talking to like the non-existent Twitch chat for a moment there, and I figured, you know what? Maybe let's start streaming on YouTube before I start talking about a lot of stuff. So just like on Tuesday, I've got my window open. This time though, there seems to be a lot more activity outside. Mainly that being just like kids playing and making noise. So you can probably hear quite a bit of that in the background. I'm going to keep my window open throughout most of the stream. It's supposed to start raining soon. Probably when the rain starts hitting. More accurately, when I notice it's raining. So about like 20 minutes after the rain starts, probably. I'll close the window so that like I don't, like my, the inside of my home doesn't get wet. But until then, I'm going to keep it open because it's about 26 degrees Celsius in here right now. And I would very much like to sleep tonight in a room that's a reasonable temperature. So that's just a little disclaimer out of the way. Let's get started. Today we're going to continue on with the AI development of... Hold on, is this over the speakers? That's not over the speakers. Good. With the AI development of that boss fight over there. So last time we got started with his movement and his first couple of abilities. And we still have... That's one of his abilities. We still have the issue that he only really moves in one way. What he should realistically do is move over that spline in the direction that is the closest to the player. And when he is within a certain range of the player, he probably should not be moving at all. So we'll probably get started with that, I think. I said that we're going to do some behavioral stuff, and we'll probably get to it throughout the rest of the stream today, if I had to guess. But for now, I think that is what we're going to do first. So we have the C++ class here for the Reaper boss. And we have this as set distance to closest point. We have the find closest point on spline, which again, I think we should at some point move this into a function library instead. Because this seems like something that I'm going to be able to use in a lot of different places as well. Then we have the move along spline function. This is what we're going to be modifying. To a certain extent, we might make a new function as well. So, and then in the tick, we just, if we are on the spline, we move along the spline. I think what we're going to do is the move along spline is going to take in a... an integer, and that can just be like an integer 8-bit direction exactly, because it just needs to be 1 or -1. Matter of fact, if it just needs to be 1 or -1, it might as well be a bool, right? So what I'm thinking is we can do a integer direction, which will always be 1 or -1 if we just promise ourselves to do that. And then if we add that in here, we can just say, hey, the f vector like location, do we have a target location somewhere? Like we are doing, yeah, so our location will be our actor location plus the, oh, we're already doing something. Okay, so we want to set our target location. So then we have, what does direction do then? What did I do here? Like, how does this make sense? We have our target location minus... I don't think we necessarily need to do that. But anyway, somewhere in here we can say, yeah, so we have in our distance along spline. I think that makes the most sense. Okay, I'm just catching up with my own code that I wrote earlier this week. It's been a long week. Our distance along spline will plus equal our speed times delta time. And then we can also multiply that with the direction, which will be 1 or -1. Alternatively, what we could do is we could do a if statement, and that is if direction, so just if, let's call it forward direction, we do all that, and else we do the negative. And that way we can only ever, like, supply in a bool. I think that just makes more sense, to be honest with you. So let's do that bool forward direction. We won't set a default value for that. Yeah, I think we're going to do it like that because there's no real reason for us to be able to pass in anything into direction that is, like, not -1 or +1. It could be interesting to, like, pass in 2 or -2 or like 3 or 4 or 5, whatever. Like we have an 8-bit integer. But I don't think we're going to be using that, and it seems like, nah, let's just do it this way. That said, though, we now also need to move this. That needs to go there, right? Because now we need to... Oh, this is messy. We're doing the plus equals times delta time. But now if we are beyond the spline length, we get set back to, like, the start of the spline. But now here, if we go under a value of 0, and presumably Copilot will just do this for me, right? If I just start typing if distance along spline is less than 0, we do the opposite and we set it to the end of the spline length. So that is an important step to do there as well. So now we can easily give in a direction here, whether or not it's forward, to this function, and it will allow us to go both directions, which is a really good first step. Now, the tricky part here is going to be deciding whether or not we want to go forward or we want to be going backward. And I think we'll do that in a separate function. So that will be returning a bool. Find move direction, which will take in... I don't think this needs to necessarily take in anything, to be honest with you. Maybe Copilot is just a couple of steps ahead of me here. We'll figure this out in a moment, I suppose. But what we want to do is we also want to get a character reference to the player, actually. So let's... this is all in protected. That's a train going by, don't mind that. Oh, these are all functions. Okay, let's actually add a comment there. Private functions. And then we have a private member here. So that will be a character, player character, indeed. I don't think we need to forward declare that here, but apparently we do, so fucking alright. And then on begin play, we just give that a value, right? So if spline actor, whatever, we need to include gameplay statics. It's not what I want, thank you very much. Include... I do want to get, like, what is it, Gizmod? Gameplay statics, I believe, off the top of my head. Hello everybody tuning in, how's everybody doing? Good afternoon from Brazil. That's quite a while away. Good afternoon from Netherlands. Can play a character. Yeah, that's all that we need. So, okay. Now, find move direction. For that, let's see if this does anything. No, not even close. To what I had in mind anyway. What is it trying to do? It gets a spline component to make sure that the spline component is valid. That's fair. Then it gets the current location of our current actor. The target location will be... Yeah, no, that's like in no way... You know what? Actually, that's not what I had in mind. Let's see if it does what I wanted to do. Wouldn't that be hilarious? What I had in mind was probably a lot simpler. And if this doesn't work, I'll go for the AI too. Oh my god, I'm dropping frames because I'm still uploading to Google Drive. No, I'm not. That upload finished a while ago. I don't know what the fuck is happening in that case. Well, hopefully I'm not gonna drop... Oh, I'm dropping frames. Fuck. I'm not even dropping frames. I just dropped my internet connection altogether. That's not good. Attempting reconnect. You know what? Oh, hold on. We're back. We're back. I think we're back. We're back, right? Yeah, so my internet just kind of died there for a moment. Am I still using gas? Yes, I am. If we go back to Unreal Engine, and we'll take a look at this in a moment. This guy here, in my Reaper, he runs on gameplay abilities. At the moment, I'm just executing those randomly to test. But this very much is a gameplay ability system. So we've got this dash ability that dashes and does an attack and whatever, and then the actual attacks are just children of that with given stuff, and those are going to eventually be implemented in this behavior tree. Stream status is poor. Yeah, I can't really do much about that. But we'll just pretend like nothing bad is happening and hope that it sorts itself out, because my internet sometimes is just kind of shit. That's kind of all there is to it. So what other errors did we get? Reaper Boss 42, 51 and 61 data time issues. So that's 41... Oh, that's fair enough. That is entirely fair enough. It's just a typo. Any parameter's name. Again, I don't know if this will work. I don't think it will. This is the code that we just got from Copilot. But it will be interesting to see if Copilot has a different solution which might be less janky than the solution I had in mind. So let's see, we have this over here, and then if we move to the other side, he does start moving. Not really. But that might just be... Yeah, no, it does not really do what I wanted to do, does it? Because he's actively moving away from me still. I figured as much. Yeah, I'm always happy to share gameplay ability stuff. I really like the plugin. I don't like the lack of information about it online. So I really try to fill in the gaps where I can. I'm not an expert on it, of course, but The people at Epic who are supposed to be experts at it are probably just apparently bad at explaining it. I don't know. Okay, so what we're going to do is for find move direction, what we'll do is we'll get the player character position near location near spline. Then we will check distance on spline between player and Reaper in both directions. Compare distances. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make that a comment. Compare distances and then return true or false. So this first one, easy to do, right? Vector player location, exactly, player character get actor location. Done. Then we have this thing over here, which will be... that's not actually what I want. Never mind. Immediately fucked it up. Because we want to have a float. Player distance is find closest point on spline. Player character get actor location. That is what we want to do. We could put this on a timer. This move direction instead of tick. And only do this like once a second. And make this a member variable instead of just regenerating this as a bool every single time. We'll think about that in a moment if it ends up like causing any frame rates at any point issues, but I kind of doubt it, honestly. Again, there's only going to be one of these fuckers, so it'll be fine. Then the forward distance will be the distance along spline minus the player distance. And then the forward distance is less than 0. Forward distance plus equals spline length. I don't think that's how that works, man. I mean, we definitely want to check whether or not that value goes under a value of 0. But we don't want to add the entire spline length to it. What we want to do is... Maybe we do actually. Hold on. Maybe we do. Because, okay, let's draw this out. Let's draw this out real quick. We have... I'm just going to... That's the wrong key. I'm just going to make this a square real quick. And this will be the start position. Say the player is here. We want to check what this distance is. But we also want to check what, like... And the... Hold on. No. And the boss fight is here. We want to check both this distance and that distance, but this distance here goes through the 0 value, so that's gonna fuck things up a little bit in some way or another. This one is literally as easy as just subtracting two numbers and you'll get a result. Like our current distance along spline minus this one will get us one of these two, and then the other one is this is along spline plus. No, that doesn't make a lot of sense. The other one is the inverse in like math. So for one direction we subtract that from that, and from the other we subtract that from that, right? But in both cases we need to do checking around, like passing through that 0 point, and that's the thing that I'm a little bit worried about. So if our forward distance is less than 0, we have fucked up. But in that case, our forward distance is actually going to be equal to our spline length plus our forward distance. Right? That makes sense. Because if we go... We'll just test this. And then we have a backwards distance, which will be, yeah, the other way around. So now we're doing player distance minus distance along spline. That makes sense to me. And then here, if forward distance is less than backward distance, we return 2, and otherwise we return false. I think this makes sense. We might need to take another look at this math over here because that's a little bit shaky. I'm not 100% sure on it. But let's, yeah, find move direction. We're just passing it in every frame, so that should be fine. I think that should work. And then we need to put some stuff in, like if we are within a certain distance of the player on the spline, we stop moving as well, I think, because now it's going to like go back and forth like real quick when it actually reaches us. Assuming that my code even works to begin with. Okay, that's interesting. Right now what it's doing is it's always trying to move to the opposite side of the circle from me. That's not really what I had in mind. But if I go here now, it's going to stop moving. That's interesting for like running away purposes. So what if I like cut him off and I go here? He does move into the other direction. So it kind of works, it just needs to move into the other direction, which I guess just means that these have to be the other way around, right? Which makes the name of the function no longer work, but the name doesn't really matter that much. What if you account for the vector between dot product? Yeah, I could do that, but that seems like that's what Copilot was trying to do, is like calculating the dot product between like the two positions. But I think, yeah, so this works now. And I don't think actually, like, if I just... He just kind of hangs out here. He's a little stuttery. But I think there we can just put in the tick event if is on spline and that's distance to player. Float distance to player is dist get actor location, yes. And distance to player is greater than 500. Let's say 200 and 50. So now we should also stop moving when he's closer to us, at which point we'll probably want to like trigger an attack or something as well. Maybe not, I don't know. For now we'll just do this, and maybe I'll remove that line of code anyway. Maybe we'll move that to the AI, I don't know. For now we'll just like actually code it in. If we now move very close to you, you should stop moving, right? You're not. That's a little weird. Okay. So maybe that just needs to be bigger. Let's go to 500. Maybe, just maybe, I should be listening to Copilot a little bit more often. Mangaruki, hi, all good streams. Hello back, and thank you very much. Okay, let's see if I just needed to make that number a little bit bigger. Yes, so now he just stops when he's close to me, and then he moves in whatever direction. Okay, so if I now go to the other side of the arena real quick, what does he do? To be fair, it's actually kind of difficult to get there. Never mind, it's not. So at some point here, he should be... Okay. This is going to, like, rarely happen in gameplay, I feel, because I'm having trouble triggering this scenario by just, like, testing. And one has to assume that during gameplay it's going to be even more rare. But let's put the delay between attacks to 20 seconds. So I have some time to run away and see if he actually, like, changes directions as well when I'm on the other side of the map. So if I go like this, does he at some point decide, hey, actually it makes more sense for me to be moving in the other direction? Because it seems like he does. Okay, he does. That's actually really good. This is going a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be. And then by the time you're, like, close to him, you're not going to be moving away to the other side here and, like, actually troubleshoot this as a player. And again, by the... Yeah, it takes so much time to... Never mind, I can actually hit him. I was going to say I can't hit him, I don't know why I was trying. But apparently I can. So yeah, that's kind of fine. Now... there is the issue of I want them to phase through this fountain. Is there an easy way to set up those collision channels? Let's see. Collision. Custom. It's exactly like Elden Ring. Almost. Yeah, almost. I suppose what I could do... This thing is set to world static. I probably just need to make a separate collision channel for this, to be honest. Yeah, let's just make a separate collision channel for that. Where are those again? I think they're in my project settings, right? Collision channels. Somewhere in here. Engine. Collision. There we go. Object channels, trace channels. We want to make a new object channel. And that will be... player block... enemy ignore, something like that. I might need to restart my engine for that to take effect though. Yes, I do. Okay. The idea is that it's just going to block everything and then it's going to ignore that channel, and then the same thing here, that's just going to ignore that channel, or this is going to be set to that channel rather, and this is going to just ignore that channel, so it'll be able to pass through, but the player can't pass through it as well. That's the idea. Let's see if that actually works. So we save everything, gives us a proper chance to actually like compile this as well. Yes, I'm quite happy with the What do you mean it's still open? It's probably still closed down. Quite happy with the attack animations. There's a lot more work to do for the actual code of the attacks, but the attack animations do work quite well. I think the movement for the attack needs to be sped up a little bit even more, but maybe it just needs to be the boss that is a little bit smaller. Because the smaller something is, the faster it seems to move, as a general rule. Like if something is 1 meter tall and moves 5 meters in a second. If you're from America, I'm very sorry about this. You don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but it's about like relativeness, right? So something that's 1 meter big, moving 5 meters in a second, might feel a certain way, but then if something is only like half a meter big and moves the same distance in that same time, it's perceived as a lot faster. Just because I don't know why it is. So maybe just making him smaller also makes him feel faster. Maybe I just need to make him faster. It's a little bit of like balancing that I need to at some point worry about, but not right now. Okay, so player block enemy ignore is going to be the channel for this guy, and this dude is going to collision custom. It's going to ignore that. And now I think the ignore will take priority over the other thing. I always get mixed up with how collision channels actually work, but let's try to stay on the other side of this thing and see if he can phase through, but I think he will. Come on, attack me. Come on, attack me. 20 seconds is a long ass time, isn't it? Okay, he does not phase through, so your collision type will be... I always get mixed up because the collision channels work two ways, right? This thing looks at whatever channel this exists on and sees its interaction with that, and the other way around as well. Why? Oh, that's why. I always forget if it is the lowest of the two that takes priority or the highest of the two. It's the highest of the two. Makes sense. Because this thing might be blocking this from moving through it, but this still... or the other way around. I don't know. Let's take a look at... where even is my collision? Oh, I might also need to do this on a mesh, to be fair. So maybe it is ignore that takes priority. Because this also needs to be set to ignore. Let's try that first. And then see how we go. I don't have a custom movement component for aerial movement. This guy doesn't even have actual aerial movement, if I'm being real with you. What he does is just not have legs that touch the ground, and that makes it seem aerial. I have a couple of characters that do fly around, and those get... yeah, you see. And those move around with the normal character movement component, with its gravity set to 0, and then they just move through a custom move task in their behavior tree instead. I don't remember how that works. I think it just applies a force to them every frame to move them in like 3D space. It's a little bit stuttery still. Oh, no, it just directly sets their location, actually. It's even worse, yeah. I'll show you in a second, if I don't forget. If I do forget, feel free to call me out on it. So, this thing also needs to ignore whatever this guy is, which is... presumably this is character, right? Or pawn, rather. If I can find the collision again, I can just type in collision and find it, right? Yes. No? Maybe? Somewhere in here, surely. At some point we'll find it. Ah, there we go. Collision preset. Yeah, this thing is a pawn and then skeletal mesh as well. So we'll want to ignore pawns and skeletal meshes. Character meshes. What is it called? Is it world dynamic? Let's take a look at the mesh. That's also a pawn. Okay, so it just needs to ignore pawn. I'll test this real quick and then I'll look at the movement code in aerial space, because I do want to preface that by saying, oh, that's not good. Now it's ignoring me too. But it's also, oh, these things are separate. These things are separate meshes. These are not particle systems. It's just that's just a mesh with a material on it. Yeah, those don't need to have collision at all. Actually, I can just say, hey, no collision on this and no collision on that. That's fine. You can walk through that. Matter of fact, no, okay. I was going to say we probably need to set that material to two-sided, but it already is. We can maybe now set this back to blocking pawns. That should now block our pawn from entering it again, but we can now walk through here. That's good enough for now. Now, the $1 million question is, can you move through it, though? Because that's the only thing that I really care about, is that character being able to move through. He still cannot. Okay, that is a slight problem. Unless there is, like, even more meshes that I'm missing. There is. Hold on, there is. Because we also have these planes. That's definitely not the thing that I want, though. I don't think that probably is the thing that is freaking us up, but we might as well set this to no collision as well. And then we've got like this plane over here, which is going to be a freaking pain to select. There we go. Which again is going to be no collision, and then this top thing might as well also be no collision. That immediately fixes the other problem that I just had, is that we're walking on top of the water, or blood rather. I still don't think that we're going to be able to move through with the skeleton, but at least like we are now interacting with this the way you would expect it to. So, hello, hi, sorry. Don't say sorry for just saying hi. Yeah, okay, so you still are being blocked by this mesh. It's really annoying. Because I don't want you to ignore pawns. Right, because now the player will be able to move through it. Do you know how to code? Kinda, yeah. As I'm currently struggling with a big issue. Yeah, so now I can move through it. The skeleton will be able to move through it as well, but that's still not the behavior that I want. Do I need to go into my character and... Yeah, at least that works, right? That's what I want, but... I don't know if I can fix your code. Probably not. Yeah, so what the hell's going on here? I also don't know why I set this to ignore other pawns. I really don't think that I should. That's not the issue that we're having here, is it? Yeah, so let's take another look at this. Probably don't need to enable physics collision for this as well. Query only. Just to save a little bit of computing space. I'm going to Google it real quick. Because I'm getting confused. Unreal collision channels. Make one character phase through, but not others. You know what? Actually, that's way too specific of a Google query. What we're going to do is we're going to chat GPT it. That seems like a set up collision channels. In the project, we have a collision channel. Align the collision channels to the character, so assign the appropriate to each character. For instance, assign player. We just need to give it a separate channel for this dude as well. Okay. That makes a certain amount of sense. So let's call this collision phasing. Now we need to set him to being collision phasing, I think. I think that is how we're going to fix that. Let's see. Make the ghost a custom collision object type, and then make his ghost ignore world static and world dynamic and all that. But that's the thing. I don't want him to ignore all world static and all world dynamic. I still want him to like not phase through the pillars and not phase through. Yeah, I'm not gonna check Discord midstream. So I want him to specifically only phase through this object, and everything else he shouldn't phase through. Then again, he shouldn't interact with anything else as well. But I also don't want him to phase through the player. But if he only phases through world static. Anyway, it really doesn't matter, because now that we have this set up, we have 2 collision channels to work with. Which, if we ever need to implement anything like this again in a less like walled off scenario, where like these pillars might come into account, that kind of thing, will still be good to go. But yeah, I probably could just make this guy actually phase through pretty much anything, because his movement is always going to be like, he's not going to need to rely on staying on the ground, right? Because his movement is going to be always like mid-air, flying. Then again, making him able to phase through the floor in general seems like you're asking for things to go wrong. So it's probably a good thing that we're doing it this way. Oh yeah, he won't phase through the player if pawn is blocked, you're right. That's true. But still, I think not making him able to phase through the floor is probably just like a good thing, right? Even if he shouldn't ever touch the floor, still it worries me that he might. Now, all that said, let's actually set this up. Back in collision. Somewhere, surely. Going to turn off the ratcheting on my mouse, because it's an annoying sound. We need to have the capsule components, collision preset, and then this thing is going to go from object type pawn to object type collision phasing. And collision phasing will ignore player block enemy ignore. which is a really bad name. And then for the mesh, I suppose we'll do the same. Instead, we'll set this to collision phasing, player block enemy ignore, and this thing is going to ignore collision phasing. We could have just made this guy player block enemy ignore as well. Just make those... Yeah, we can probably get away with doing this in one collision channel actually. But let's test this first and then we'll worry about fixing it up later once this actually works. Okay, first test. Okay, I can still move through, so that's a very bad test. This thing is still ignoring pawns, right? That's the issue? Yeah, that's the issue. Okay. Let's try again. I'm very glad that I haven't merged my new loading system into this workspace yet. Because I redesigned the loading system to support multiple saves and stuff. It's cool stuff. But I haven't merged that in yet, mostly because I didn't want to like show it off too much on stream before the devlog about it goes up. But now that we're loading this save so much to test, okay, that works. That is good. We still have to figure out something about the... Okay, that works as well. Neat. Cool. We still have to figure out how we're actually going to make this guy hit me, because at the moment he's just straight up not. That said though, there's no need for that to be on two different collision channels, because I can just literally say, hey, your object type is player block enemy ignore. I can say that for the mesh as well. And then I can just say for both of those, you're going to ignore that channel, which we already have it set to. And then this guy also just ignores that channel, and then that other channel just straight up doesn't need to exist. Like, actually just straight up doesn't. I'm confident enough to the point where I'm going to go in, and we're going to immediately delete that collision channel, which requires me to restart the editor because it's a INI setting. Sure. How is this lighting will be? I'm assuming that you're asking about like the lighting in this scene, in this level. I'm not entirely sure yet. Relatively dark, because most of the game is relatively dark. That's really all there is to that. I'll probably build in like a brightness slider in the settings menu or something like that. It's quite easy to do that as post processing effects. I was going to show off the mid-air movement as well. How horrible my code for that is. Okay, so we still get blocked by the fountain, but you should still be able to pass through even though we now are on one collision channel. Or rather, you and the fountain are on one collision channel, so you can still phase through. That's good. But I still... Okay, I do have an ability to like actually straight up push him around. Probably shouldn't be able to do that. This is really goofy. Okay, that's what setting is that again? There is a setting for that. I think it's got to do with... Is it this? I think it might be that. So we do query only, so that we don't calculate physics, and that should now allow me to not allow me to push him around, I think. Right. No, it's still doing weird stuff. I didn't know that you could move in Unreal with the mouse wheel, like move forward like that. That's actually kind of neat. That makes me think, can I move around the other boss fight as well? It's a little tricky for me to test that right now. because I don't have a good like developer load this save file kind of system set up. Really should implement that at some point as well. Just ask ChatGPT. I mean, it's not a bad idea. But I honestly don't like the go to game for you. You know, it's not quite good enough for that. But we can disable gravity here. Probably should do that as well. Yeah, I'm probably gonna just like ignore that for the time being. If I'm being real with you. Maybe we can maybe we can just like look at like push. Nah, I didn't think so. We'll just ignore that for now. That'll be a later thing. Okay, so mid-air movement. The horrible code that I have for that. ChatGPT made you run malware? Well, first and foremost, don't run any code that you don't understand what it does, in general. But that's surprising, because ChatGPT is like very censored as a large language model. So the idea that it would give you malware is like unlikely. And again, you can still sometimes get weird stuff out of it, so that's like that's the whole idea with like this whole AI stuff, right? Is that it's kind of weird in how it works. I think it's somewhere in here, like in the enemies and then in the AI section, maybe. Yeah. Blueprint task, move toward location flight, right? So what we have is a target location as an input key, a Z offset for how far off the ground we should be, and then a sphere trace radius that we're going to be using. And the way I do this is in execute task. What we do is we get the AI controller, we get the blackboard, we get the enemy class itself, then we get the actor's location, the player's location, and then we'll get the player location Z value, so the height value, plus whatever the Z offset was. Then we calculate a angle between the two of them. Then we move. And that move is done through the angle multiplied by the character movement's walk speed and the world's delta seconds. Then if the move of the length of that movement is less than the distance between the actor and the player, it does a... This is move toward player, I'm pretty sure specifically. Or this might just be... I don't know. It does a sphere trace to see whether or not there's anything obstructing its path. Then it rotates toward its desired location, which I think is toward the player. As long as the sweep hit anything, we clear the value for the target, and otherwise we set the actor location to the player location, clear value. This is just a really weird bit of code that is honestly like actually like horrible. Like, don't copy that. I don't even know how half of it works anymore because it's weird. I probably should update my flight mechanics with like a specific character movement child component or something like that that deals with height and flight movement, but that's just... I also would really, really like to have pathfinding in like volumetric space, because we have in Unreal, like, we have pathfinding on surfaces, but we don't have pathfindings within volumes, because that's exponentially more difficult to do. There's a couple of plugins for it though. People that have implemented A-star pathfinding in three-dimensional space. So what it does is A-star pathfinding kind of just makes a grid, which is what a nav mesh is. It's a grid of points, and all gives them a certain value based on an algorithm. What those plugins do is, instead of doing that on a grid, they do it in 3 dimensions. So every single point in the 3-dimensional space gets like a value based on an algorithm and stuff like that. It becomes so much more, like, exponentially more complex when you add that 3rd dimension. So I'm not going to code that myself. If I implement it, I'll just buy that plugin. But for now, the way I have it works. My PC crashed, made a file with my passwords and uploaded it to some random Google Drive. Filled my PC with millions of files. I don't even know how it would get your passwords. Unless, like, you didn't notice for like a month and it was keylogging you. But aside from that, like, your PC doesn't store your plain text passwords. Unless you literally have a file with your passwords in it, which, again, like, not victim blaming, but at that point, like, that's kind of on you. So yeah, now that we have all that in place, I think it's time to start doing behavior tree stuff. Which is kind of scary, because I didn't really think this through too much before starting. So let's think about what we should do. We have a just like idle state in which he just moves toward the player in this circular motion, which we probably need to make a little bit more. No, it's a Windows function. Windows doesn't know your password to fucking Netflix. Like, Chrome might, if you have, like, it stored in your cookies, but even then it shouldn't be stored in, like, plain text. That should be encrypted. I'm pretty sure. Not 100% though. So we have... Okay, so we're going to do this in the same way that we did the night boss. And for anybody who hasn't seen me showing off how the night boss's behavior tree works, fucking prepare yourself. Because there is a lot. But the thing is, and this is why I wanted to move to like state trees or whatever, and maybe we'll do this some other way, I don't know. We could potentially, instead of making this on one behavior tree, you could do like a couple different behavior trees here. Make a couple of these into like sub trees. So that you don't have to copy over the nodes. Now you ask Windows to make it, and that's what the... Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Something seems to be missing there, because that doesn't quite add up. Anyway, we could make stuff like... This is just like its passive state, right? So if we could make a behavior tree where we just say, okay, stop movement, play a certain montage, wait for a... And this is where we get into the interesting stuff. We need to wait for a variable amount of time. And I think that was the reason that I didn't end up doing that. Because we can make... I think if you make like a sub, like a tree... run behavior might be? Yeah, so then we have another behavior tree asset. But... it needs to have the same blackboard. Okay, so we can actually do something with that now that I think about it. Because if the amount of time you need to wait is a blackboard key, can we like assign that to this in any way? You'd think that we could, right? I mean, we can make a custom task that does that. So then whenever we just go into one of these different phases of the boss fight, you gotta click the node first. I have the node clicked, it just... I don't think I can assign a blackboard key to the default waiting node. But it's not that difficult to make a waiting node that does something similar. It's literally just blackboard key input, get float value, wait for that amount of time, and finish. So that should be easy enough. But then we can link this stuff to a blackboard key, and then whenever we move into a certain phase of the fight, this can all just be in one sub-behavior tree, being one node, which would be more ideal. Add blackboard decorator. Blackboard, yeah. But that doesn't set the weight value here to my blackboard input key. Because the decorator is just an if statement. Just a conditional like, should we do this or not? So I don't think that works. As for this though, the combat state, that's a little bit more complex, because the combat state, depending on the phase that we're in, is going to, as you can see, get more and more complex and have different values for like the different attacks that it can do, and such. So I don't think that we can reasonably make this into a sub-tree. And that's kind of the big deal, right? So if this was a state tree instead of a behavior tree, we could more easily like reuse a lot of this. And just say, okay, move from this into this only if we're over 30% HP, but like under 70. And we could just like pretty much have this one with a couple more conditional checks. But we can't really... Actually, no, we 100% can. Except... Okay, so that much is easy to do. Now, we can make this a bit easier. We can actually make this a bit easier. Because we can add those decorators as like conditional checks for, hey, are we below a certain HP threshold here? And then all of the values for like how long we should wait between actions could also be blackboard keys. Because that is effectively the only thing that changes. Between all of this. And I think we might also change the amount of attacks that he can do. Like in phase 1, can he do... He can do the same attacks, it just adds in the heavy attack here, which he also has here. But we just add in this ability, and then in the... Oh, that was the final. Yeah, so he can't do the heavy attack in the first one, but we can make that just a different task doing that, and then... You can make a subtree with a selector, I think. I was gonna say blackboard key. Yeah, you can definitely just, if you have a subtree, you can just put a decorator on it. And like if we just do run behavior, I don't know what behavior dynamic is. Injection tag. Presumably that lets you send through information through tags. That's interesting. But we can just like run behavior. And if we then would run, in theory, like just the Nightboss thing itself. I don't know if you can run. Yeah, you can. And I just use the same blackboard as the blackboard that you're using in the tree itself. So that's a good way of sending through data to like a subtree that way. And that way, this entire system could be made a lot easier to deal with. Because right now, like, balancing this boss fight is quite annoying, because every time I change something about like how this works, I then go into here, change it here, have to go into there, change it there. So I don't want to really redo this, is the thing. And this is the night boss, and this is the first boss that I made for this game, and it's the thing that made me think, hey, maybe, just maybe, what we want to do is like look into state trees, which I still think would probably be better for what I'm trying to do here, but we can make this work. I also don't think that we need this anymore, because this is to prevent it from doing its ultimate attack right off the bat, but we can only like do the ult in the middle phase, so sure. Okay, we're not going to change up this behavior tree for now, but this is just a good thing to look at for reference. So yeah, let's try to do that. We're going to make a subtree real quick. Like, let's just copy this and this. Oh, no, that's the wrong tree. That's not the one that we're doing. Nope. Not touching that today. We're just going to be making a copy of this, and this will be BT Reaper passive. And we're going to more or less copy the behavior in the passive state here, which is just a sequence of stop movement, which in this case, because its movement is not AI driven, is just going to be a function that flips its movement bool to being false. And then we're going to play a taunting montage, which we still have to make, but for now we'll just wait a certain amount of time after it does that. So it'll just like do the taunting animation, wait a certain amount of time, which will get less and less as the boss progresses through its different phases. This guy plays a different montage as well to like get back up, waits a little bit longer, and switches the boss state enum, which is just an enum that says, hey, are you at the moment aggressive or passive, back to being aggressive. And that's really all there is to that. So we'll pretty much just copy that behavior. For Reaper passive, what we'll do is we will just do a sequence. And that sequence is going to be yeah. A new node. I think. Yeah, let's make that a new node. Enemy AI. This will be a BT task. Does this need a blackboard base? I might as well pass in the cell vector, right? Saves me a couple of lines of code. Yeah, let's do that. BT task Reaper. No. Yeah. Movements. Bool. That'll be a good name. Yeah, behavior trees have so much going for them, it's kind of a lot. What's the name of that function again? Oh, we have just like BT task here. So we have just simply copy this over because I always mess this up otherwise. And we probably want to have a constructor too to give it like a name and stuff. And then a U property for the bool value, I think. Right, if we go to this one, it has a U property for can heal. Yeah, okay. So, stop movement. Exactly. Constructor, thank you very much. I really like Copilot. Does it give me a set node name, pretty please? Node name is text. I think that's all there is to it, maybe. Let's check if there's any other. That's definitely a different. That's a BT service. That's not what I want. Have I not given any of these other ones constructors? This one has a constructor that's empty. That's something. We're just going to see if that ends up working. Having that line of code. I don't know. I think it will. I think it will. So we have... Where did my... Oh, I'm literally just in that class now. Hello. Okay, U property. Add it anywhere. Bool. Is flying? What the fuck are you on about? B can move. And then we pretty like get AI controller, yeah. Well, actually, can we get controlled pawn? Get controlled. Or get self actor. Get self actor. We still need to do all this to get the Blackboard component out of that. So, and then we need to add some includes in a moment. If we're going to do this anyway, we don't want that to be a character actually. What we want that to be is we want that to be a Reaper boss. And let's include the things that we need to include actually. Which will be AI controller, yes, Blackboard. And enemies Reaper boss. But this also needs to have, because I'm an idiot, action RPG. Project slash no, I don't have any kind of like tracing to make him float. The way he floats is literally just because he doesn't have gravity, and his movement goes over a spline, and when I give him different movement, like moving toward the player, that's done through just root motion, simply in a direction. So he just never falls down. And his height is usually just like set on this spline. So I can very much, if I wanted to, just say, hey, you're gonna go up you're gonna go down. And then if we do that, you should see in that part of the map, he will now like start moving up, in theory. Or maybe not. Is it on the other side of the map? Oh. He also specifically moves toward the player. Maybe I actually coded him to... That's interesting. I forgot my own code, seemingly. Hold on. It should be able to do that. I'm actually quite happy that it's not doing that. But he should be able to. Because here's move along spline. We get the target location, which is a spline component get location at distance along spline. Does he still have gravity? Is that why he's like not moving up? He probably just still has gravity in his character movement components. His gravity scale is 1. That's probably it. See, sometimes explaining something makes you realize you're fucked up. So yeah, he's not moving upward, which is weird. That's kind of weird. Huh. Well, for now it doesn't matter because we're going to just like only have this be a flat circle anyway. But that is odd. Not 100% sure why that's not working, but we're doing something else anyway. So let's go back to Reaper movement. And then in Reaper boss, enemy either. But why does it still think that this is like error type enemy? Does it not? I am getting a little confused because we have enemies and then Reaper boss, right? Yes. So it should be able to recognize that. Let's just real quick like try to do a live code, and this is gonna fail. Can't teach things unless you have a good understanding. Yeah, so trying to explain something often makes you run into the actual issues. That's something that I learned like a long time ago in school when I was having like a little bit of trouble with math. I'm decently good at math, at least I used to be in school. But my math teacher was always like, okay, every time I come over to ask something or answer a question of yours, you explain the question and in doing so answer your own question. So maybe going forward, what you might want to consider doing is before you like ask me to come over to ask a question, pretend like you're asking me the question. And you'll probably end up finding the answer. And they were right, majority of the time. If you just pretend to explain your problem to somebody else, you will run into the answer. Or at least into the source of the problem. Wait, did I just compile without any errors? That seems highly unlikely because this line of code is just straight up not finished. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Fail arrow cannot open include file. Oh, yeah, because that needs to also have. I really hate that I added this directory to it. I suppose anytime I make a new class, I could look into how that works. But I don't fucking know. Enemies AI BT. Bullshit. Magically let it link itself to everything else. It will compile with